Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliak, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And this week, our guest is Dennis Corrigan. He is with a number of organizations that I'm personally associated with, and the retreat is associated with as well. Dennis is here. I asked him to join us to talk about MOAA, the Military Officers Association of America, and all their services. But we also have our executive director, Sarah Ford, with us because Dennis brought along a donation for the retreat, and I asked Sarah to join us. And Sarah, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry. Glad to be here.
Yeah. And Dennis, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you coming. And very rarely, in fact, this might be the first time that a guest has showed up with money.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, very good to hear. So tell us a little bit about the donation.
So the donation is coming from the people who make up the chapter of MOAA that exists here in the local area. We meet at the Heritage Hunt Country Club because that's a central location. We've had our business and our social events that are there. And one of our outreaches is to support those organizations that support our veterans. And that's in a myriad of different ways. Having been supporting this particular endeavor here at the Willing Warrior Retreat Center for almost all 10 years. In fact, the years before it was actually built, we actually held a fundraising at the home of one of our HOA members, and that's what turned us on to this particular endeavor. And so every year we collect money. The MOAA members tend to be an average age of about 60. Mm-hmm. And so we don't do car washes. So at the beginning of every year when people are paying their dues, they also make donations. And that adds up after a while. And this is going to be our third donation that we've been able to make. And we just voted for it this past Tuesday. And so I don't need to have the check in my hands. I need to make sure it's in yours. So that's what it's about today.
And so we're doing an audio podcast. Can you tell our listeners how much the check is for?
It's for $2,000.
Oh, okay.
Which is almost the cost of a week's stay.
Yes.
So that makes it nice and makes it feel good for us as well.
Wow.
Yes. Dennis, thank you so much for your support, both personally for the Warrior Retreat and also through MOAA and the other organizations that you support. As you mentioned, MOAA has been a supporter of ours from the beginning,
yes.
Before the retreat was even opened. And it shows the level of commitment that we have in this community. Mm-hmm. And to have this officers organization, gather together and come and say, hey, we want to support those still in the fight, means a lot and says a lot about MOAA and about your group. And as you mentioned, that pretty much covers a warrior family stay here at the retreat. So there's going to be a warrior family that's going to be impacted, a warrior family that's going to be brought closer together and provided healing here at the Warrior Retreat thanks to your support and the support of your members. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Very welcome.
Wow. And did you have another check? No other checks. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, we're just checking.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure in case
Literally,
you had one you forgot about.
Yeah. No, this is the one that's important. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to let Sarah go because she's busy. She needs to go cash that check. And
today's Friday. You can't do anything on Saturday with it.
So she's going to get back to work, and then Dennis and I are going to settle down here and talk about MOAA. So thank you for joining us, Sarah.
Right. Thank you, Larry. And again, thank you, Dennis. We appreciate your support and look forward to continuing to work with you in the years to come. So thank you.
That's going to happen.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you
Good.
again.
Thanks.
The envelope.
Oh, yeah.
You can just pull it out from underneath the...
See you later. All right. Bye. Okay, we're back. Dennis, I do want to talk a little bit about where you and I personally intersect. Is we're both members of the American Legion Haymarket Post 1799,
Yes.
as well as here at the retreat. You are also part of the Knights of Columbus, and the Knights of Columbus is a huge supporter of ours. They have for our yearly annual car show that we do, you guys are here donating the food and then working the grills and cooking hot dogs and hamburgers for everybody at no cost. Now, most people make a donation, which is very kind, and we really appreciate it. So that function in itself, the cost of the food as well as the donations raised from people who are getting hot dogs and hamburgers, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars that you guys have brought in, and it's no small feat. I mean, you guys are out there cooking for. I think this last year was one of our highest. We had like 865 people on the property, and more than a few were pretty beefy, and I think they might have gone through that line more than once.
I won't tell.
So, you know, thank you so much for everything you do. And also, look, Dennis is a franchisee for Mosquito Joe here in the local area. And they volunteer and come out and spray the property for ticks and mosquitoes. And that is so valuable to our families. It takes a concern away from them. You know, a lot of our families aren't from the country. They're from the city. And one of the things they hear about the country is that ticks will kill you or you'll get sick or, you know, so they're a little bit leery about going out with the kids and everything and running around this huge property. And more than once we said, look, we have a company that comes in and sprays. You don't have to worry about it. And so that's another way that folks really get to experience your generosity, and we can't thank you enough. So if you're in Northern Virginia, and I'm going to put a link down to Dennis's Mosquito Joe webpage, because if you need that for your home, your property, you definitely want to give them a call, because we, more than anything, we support veteran-owned businesses that support us. And we have a lot of tradesmen that come in here and help us and do things like that. So I can't thank you enough for everything you do through the American Legion, through the Knights of Columbus and Mosquito Joe. You're really one of our top vendor volunteers, and we appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you very much. That's overly generous from you. So
well, it just means so much to us. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about your military career. And one of the questions that I always ask our veterans is, as a Navy veteran, why did you join the Navy and not the Air Force?
Well, that's a great question, because I'd have to go back to my years in high school. And I was a Navy brat, so my father was stationed at Pearl Harbor. And I went to the DODDS supported school in Hawaii, which was Radford University, named after Admiral Radford from World War II.
Right.
And I wasn't going to go to college unless I either got a scholarship or an appointment to one of the academies. And I did, in fact, get an appointment to the Air Force Academy. And 2 days later, I got an appointment to an ROTC, a Navy ROTC scholarship that was going to be at Auburn University in Alabama.
Okay.
So living in Hawaii, going to Alabama, which was an experience. And because I had seen the Blue Angels, I knew I wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
And so things just came together.
Yeah.
Got the scholarship, went to Auburn, graduated, was commissioned an ensign, and went directly to flight school.
Okay.
Now, there is an interesting quick story about that. I worked so hard the last quarter of my time at Auburn to get my degree that I forced my eyes to a position where I couldn't pass the eye exam to be a pilot at the physical before I graduated.
Oh,
And so I was given the option to become a naval flight officer, which is the guy who, sits in the back or sits side by side with the pilot. But I got married 5 days after graduation and went to Pensacola. The first thing they do is test your eyesight, and I passed with flying colors.
wow.
And the optometrist said, you could be a pilot. And I said, I wanted to be a pilot. He said, let me write this for you. So you just don't do that without doing something special. So they sent me to see the admiral who was there at Pensacola when I put in my application to switch from naval flight officer to being a pilot. And he approved that change. So all of my dreams came true.
Wow.
Married the love of my life, got to be a pilot, and not that being a naval flight officer in NFO is a bad deal, but
Right.
that's how I entered. So it's kind of an answer to your question
Wow.
about the being a Navy pilot or being an Air Force pilot. I think either one would have been great, but I certainly enjoyed my family's commitment to being in the Navy. My grandfather was in the Navy,
wow.
so it was something that was built into
Yeah.
the stuff. And did that for 24 years.
What did you fly?
I flew the P-3 Orion,
Okay.
anti-submarine warfare, and ELINT airplane. I was able to do that for 22 of my 24 years.
Wow.
So I spent a lot of time in the air and
Flying over the ocean.
flying over the ocean, yes.
I was stationed in northern Maine at Loring Air Force Base, and we used to see P-3s come in and do touch and goes because they'd be right off the coast there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Brunswick, Maine was where a major P-3 base was located. So
In the nice part of Maine.
in the nice part of Maine, yes. So it was a great time. I spent 23 years in the Navy, 24 years in the Navy, and when I finally retired, I was at Pax River, Maryland, doing the things that provided the training for individuals in aviation, whether they were maintenance guys, aircrew guys, pilots, NFOs. We bought the supplies, bought the airplane training, et cetera, that they need to be able to operate efficiently and effectively. So that was great. When I got out of the Navy, I decided I didn't want to be a Beltway bandit, a defense contractor who supported all of the regulatory and money and all that stuff. I wanted to do something that we could build. So I was on my 30-day vacation at the end of my career, and a company here in the local area called me and asked me if I'd come for an interview because they wanted to build simulators, and they needed someone who knew the ins and outs, and that's what I did.
Wow.
I joined them, and I had a great time doing exactly what I just described.
Yeah.
We had offices all over the world because training centers are not just in the continental United States.
Right.
I enjoyed it. I finally retired after 15 years of doing that, and I decided I was going to play golf. I was going to enjoy life. I was going to walk the grandkids to school and do that stuff. And I got bored, and I found out I couldn't play golf 3 times a week and feel. So I started looking for something to do, and Larry's already said I found something that would be fun.
Yeah.
It was a seasonal job. Mosquitoes hibernate like a lot of
There you go.
insects. So my wife and I both agreed that maybe this was something we could do. And the icing on the cake, the reason why we really did it was because we watched my son put mosquito repellent directly on my grandchildren's skin rather than putting it on their clothes and that type of stuff. And we said, we got to educate. So we spend more time educating people about insects and how to protect themselves, their yard, their house, etc. And that's what makes it fun. We weren't in it for the money. We were in it for the being busy, doing something that was worthwhile.
Right.
So,
How did you find your transition? And separating from, I mean, your whole tribe and that whole life that you built, and all of a sudden, when you close that door, you close that door.
That's right.
How was that for you?
It went pretty smoothly. The Navy at that particular time was making sure that people could enjoy the time that they were doing the transition. So there were books written like Navy Blue to civilian operations or civilian activities, et cetera. Went through a week-long course on how to write a resume, and it was all done by the Navy. And as a result, I think that we lived through that period of time very easily. And then I retired, and then without having a single resume yet written, I got this call from a company that knew who I was, knew where I was, called me, and the rest is history from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I think I was very lucky. Everybody doesn't have that experience.
Right.
The community was a little bit different because during my tour with the Naval Air Systems Command, they moved from being in Crystal City out to Pax River.
Right.
But my children were, at that time, high school seniors and a high school junior, and I wasn't going to move. So I was doing a 2-hour commute from Springfield all the way out to Pax River. But what was nice is there were 3 other guys in the car.
Oh,
and every week we took turns doing it. So the only thing I had to remember is during the week that I was driving, I was not allowed to go to sleep. So it turned out to be a very, very good experience for us. And like I said, everything I've talked about from high school all the way through that particular point in my life, everything came to me. I don't know if it came without a whole lot of prayer. It probably did. But, it turned out the way I'd hoped it would turn out. And so we've been very lucky from that standpoint.
And when did you find MOAA, and how did you get hooked up with them?
When MOAA first started, their name wasn't MOAA. It was the Reserve Officers Association of America.
Okay.
And they were trying to recruit individuals to join them. And I'll talk about why in a minute. But they were trying to recruit people. And so I joined TROA initially, and that then morphed into we don't just want retired or reserve officers, we want active duty as well. And so now we attract individuals from all phases of active duty, veterans, people who didn't retire, reservists, and the 2 mostly unrecognized organizations, the National Health group, and as well as NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association. So all 7 of those, if you put them together, is what we started seeing as part of the group. And so I became a life member of that particular organization and transitioned to MOAA. And I have always looked for outreaches. First, when I joined TROA and MOAA, it was their offices are in the local Northern Virginia, D.C. area. And I didn't see any activities, but we were constantly being briefed on what's going on with Congress, with the whole program office memorandum process, which is how the government is funded. Same thing with military departments. So when I got here to Haymarket, moved from Springfield to Haymarket for our final retirement, it turned out that there was a chapter of MOAA at the local Gainesville location of Heritage Hunt, which is an HOA that's pretty big in terms of size.
Yeah.
And those, so now there was a way to be with other individuals who are veterans, who are retired. We even have a couple of active duty individuals in the local area that are part of MOAA. And so the chapter here, so it was a chance to be with people and do things with people that were both fun and social things, but it also gave me a chance to be more involved in giving back, still serving, if you
Right.
would. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So let's talk a little bit about the services that MOAA provides to its members and to all veterans, which is one of the things that really attracted me to MOAA. And I've had a number of guests who have been officers and are members of MOAA and talked about how helpful the resources that MOAA provided when they separated, as far as when it came to job seeking and resume building and mentoring and things like that. And one of the things that I would hear and I really thought was great is that while MOAA is a Military Officers Association of America, membership is officers, the services that they provide are available to all veterans.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah, regardless of rank, you don't have to be an officer. If you need help and they can act as a resource, please reach out to them. So, what are some of the services that they provide?
Big MOAA provides scholarships for individuals who are family members of anyone tied to that litany of things: officers, veterans, enlisted ranks, whatever their connection to that one day of service
Right.
in the military. It allows them to apply for that. That's a tremendous advantage for individuals. Some of them are grants, some of them are loans, but it makes no difference. There is still that resource available to them. The other thing that MOAA does is try to protect and, in some cases, increase the amount of things that the Veterans Department of the U.S. government provides. So they're there to make sure that VA hospitals are funded, that people get their COLA for their retired pay, making sure that there's equity in the way the military operates, that especially for individuals who are in other parts of the U.S. that aren't necessarily right here in the local D.C. area. Our MOAA chapter here has continued the concept of scholarships. We seek all of the high schools that have a ROTC program.
Okay.
Our local high school, Battlefield High School, has an Air Force ROTC.
Right.
And what we would like to help continue is individuals that are in an ROTC, a junior ROTC, be facilitated to go to a regular four-year college and join an ROTC unit at that college, and hopefully get commissioned as a ensign or second lieutenant in one of the other services.
Sure.
Because we feel like when we retired, it was a hole, and that a lot of people were right there to fill our holes, but who was going to fill the last man's hole or the last woman's hole?
Yeah.
And then that was going to have to come from the general population. And we haven't had a war in a long time. We've had lots of conflicts. We've been in Afghanistan. We've been in Iraq. We've been those places. But there's a lot of people, especially in Congress, that have never had a day of service, have never been involved in a day of service. And providing that resource for them is an important aspect of getting things passed. We are a nonpartisan organization. We like to talk to every political organization about who we are, what we need, and what support they can provide. And you're seeing that more and more often. And that's why MOAA's efforts to provide legislators with the information they need is important. The chapter here is at the next level down. While we do support MOAA's efforts in legislation, there is governmental things in Virginia that require military familiar individuals to be a part of. And so in Virginia, there's a Virginia Council of Councils. So our chapter is considered a council, and we support the group that is in Richmond, providing them with the funds and the personnel support to storm the legislature, to talk about the things in a nonpartisan way that helps them to make a better decision.
Yeah.
And if that better decision protects benefits or as benefits are required, the PAC Act, which occurred some years ago, MOAA was heavily involved in that. And we were heavily involved from a council point in making sure that our own Commonwealth legislature was also ready to support that.
So that is such an important aspect of the work that MOAA does is policy and trying to develop policy guidelines for not only federal but state and local governments, because all of the benefits that veterans have came because of American Legion, the VFW, MOAA, Iraq, Afghanistan Veterans Association. These are all organizations that you can join and be a member of and pay dues, and those dues support the lobbying and the policy assistance that these organizations give to legislators to get benefits for you. So I know a lot of folks think that all of this takes place on a federal level and it's all about Congress, but there are so many rules and regulations and laws that affect veterans on a state level. For instance, here in Virginia, if you're a veteran and you have 100% disability, you don't pay tax on your home. And the only reason that law is in place is because veteran organizations pushed for it.
That's correct.
It's not because legislators just woke up one day and said, oh, let's just give veterans who are 100% disabled, let's just give them a tax break on their home. Well, they don't want to give any money away ever. So keep that in mind when you think about these organizations, and especially if you're an officer out there, you need to belong to MOAA. You need to go to the webpage, MOAA.org, and take a look and register, pay your dues, and be part of this organization, because it supports not only you and your fellow officers, but it supports through making resources available and helping all veterans. It supports those that were under your command, that you took an oath to guide and lead. And here's a chance for you to continue to do that for those men and women that worked under you when you were an officer. And so if you don't want to join, hit that donate button. Give whatever you can. $10, $100, $1,000. This work to lobby in all 50 states and on a national level is not cheap, and you can't do it with volunteers, and you can't do it with wishful thinking. So please join MOAA, MOAA.org, join or donate. And if you're a veteran, and especially if you need transitional assistance, especially when it comes to mentorship, resources for locating a job, resume building, interview techniques, and everything that you need, check out the MOAA webpage, because they have a tremendous amount of resources. And then there's also a way to find a chapter in your local area. And when you find that chapter, reach out to them, explain your situation, tell them what you're having trouble with, and I guarantee you they'll help. And if they can't help, they will find somebody who can help. And so as we kind of wrap things up, Dennis,
I have one other thing that I'd like to mention.
Okay.
That we're talking about stuff that happens when you're living. At our particular chapter here, we also have an individual who's trained to assist families in need at the time when death has occurred.
Yeah.
And that transition for those individuals, sometimes, especially when we're all the way out in Haymarket, it's not like there's a base real close.
Right.
And so we maintain that capability, and some of the others do as well. The American Legion, the VFW, for instance, both have service officers that take and help families through that. And we are no different. The other aspect of it is if an individual, male or female, is a veteran officer, then they can belong to MOAA, as Larry has talked about. When that member goes away or goes past, the surprising spouse is made a member, an auxiliary member, but she has, or he has, depending on which way, has the chance to join in the social, be a part of the discussion about benefits, what we do to support benefits so that they don't go away, or if they need to be increased. And that's a function that we find in the chapter. All this stuff is personal. You don't want to be on the phone with this. We sit right next to the family. We help them do the paperwork, understand the benefits, because I found personally that there's a lot of people who pass that haven't told their wife, haven't made a will, haven't given instructions on what they would like to see after their death, and hopefully they are looking down rather than looking up. So that part of it, I think, is a really important part that I found important, especially when I was involved in some of those kind of things.
Well, it is important because the benefits that a veteran is receiving cease when they pass, but there are additional benefits available through the VA for that veteran spouse or family. And they don't actually even have to be a member of any organization. They don't even have to be service-connected disability. They just need to be a veteran. And in fact, if you've got an aunt or an uncle who is a veteran and they've passed, you can call a local MOAA chapter and say, Uncle Dave passed.
Right.
And Aunt Betty, he never received any veteran benefits, but I understand that my aunt may be eligible for some. And how does she get those? And there's somebody at the MOAA chapter that will walk them through that has experience, that knows what's available, because it's hard. Dealing with the VA is hard for almost everybody. And so when you can bring a professional into the process, that's not only going to get you what you need, but also make sure that you're getting everything you're entitled to, which often you just get what you ask for, and you don't know what you don't know. And so that's an amazing service, I think, because it really is a time when things are so unsettled. And also some relatives want their veteran interned at a national cemetery because the VA will pay for that, because a funeral is expensive. And so, I think that's an amazing service, really.
And I think you've heard this story, but just for your listeners to know that here we have a local cemetery that's a public for-profit cemetery that had 33 members that had no grave marker. And it turned out that those 33 were military veterans. So the American Legion here and in Manassas and a couple of other American Legion have worked diligently to get headstones to not only reflect the name and the dates of birth, but also to reflect that they're a military veteran, which is something that the VA provides free of charge for every headstone that a veteran should have.
Yeah.
And that's a big effort. It's still serving those who served and passed away is an important aspect of what we do in the local environment.
Sure. Yeah. Well, listeners, please go to the webpage, moa.org. Check it out. If you are an officer, join. No excuse. You got to join. At a minimum, donate. If you need help with transitioning, check out the resources. you know, it's a great organization, and it's been around for a long time. And I know I have seen MOAA reps at Building 62 at Walter Reed, just sitting around in the lobby, talking to people, and come down. What are you doing? Are you going to separate soon? Have you thought about what you're going to do after you get out? You know, we're here to help. We're here, and they're just sitting around in suits in the lobby of Building 62. And I saw them a number of times when we were up there, and I thought, well, who are those guys? And then finally started talking to one of them, and they just come and they sit and they look for officers and talk to the guys that are there, part of the soldier recovery unit, about whether they're going to go before the med board, when they're getting out, what they offer, that kind of thing. It was really great to see, because it was such a laid back, casual approach, you know. But as we kind of wrap things up, what's the most important thing you want people to know, our listeners to know, about MOAA?
They're nonpartisan, so that puts them in the middle. They're able to talk to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to use their knowledge of the system, whether it's that which works in Congress or on the Commonwealth or state level.
Mm-hmm.
That they're compassionate. They're enthusiastic about assisting. They believe in the watch phrase, still serving.
Mm.
Yeah, because like you said before, many of the officers were in charge of other men and women, and we never lose sight of trying to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been the reason I'm part of the MOAA community, as well as the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think that spreading my time over the American Legion, the Knights of Columbus, VFW, and MOAA are my four passionate type of outreach efforts.
Yeah.
So I thank you for having me today. I love talking about what's important to me, and I really, though, support this particular Willing Warrior Retreat Center. And I think it's true, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You know, we lose 19 to 22 individuals every day who have lost the faith that they're important, that they have a role in the world after having served so distinguishedly in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who come here get reunited with that bond of a family can provide that prevents that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. And that's why this place is important to me.
Well, we really appreciate your support. We can't thank you enough. And thanks for coming on and telling us about MOAA. I've wanted to do an episode about MOAA for quite some time. Having met the guys at Building 62, had a few guests who were MOAA members. I knew, especially I so like the idea that resources are available to all veterans, regardless of rank. I think that is really, really awesome. So, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Well, listeners, we'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. And if you have any questions or suggestions, you can reach us at podcast@willingwarriors.org. We're available on all major podcast platforms, on our YouTube channel, or Reach Across America. So thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.